Caffeine microdosing is the practice of splitting your caffeine intake into several smaller servings rather than taking one large dose. This talk introduces the concept and asks whether a different dosing strategy might help you avoid the familiar energy crash that follows a big caffeine hit. We will explore how caffeine works, why spikes and crashes occur, and how microdosing might provide a smoother ride. By the end, you will understand the potential benefits and limitations of this approach and how to apply it responsibly in your training routine. Have you ever felt amazing for an hour after downing a high-stim pre-workout only to crash hard once its effects wore off? This question suggests that the crash might be less about caffeine itself and more about the way you dose it. Instead of blaming caffeine, we will investigate whether taking too much at once creates the very slump you are trying to avoid. The rest of this presentation will build on this idea, comparing single big hits to more strategic dosing. Many popular pre-workout formulas pack a hefty amount of caffeine. The immediate result is a fast surge of energy, heightened alertness, and a sense of readiness to tackle your workout. Unfortunately, that rapid climb in stimulation can set you up for an equally rapid decline. Once the caffeine wears off, you can experience a sudden drop in energy and mood. This slide sets the stage by showing how a single large dose creates a pronounced spike, followed by a crash. Here we contrast two dosing approaches. A single big dose delivers a steep spike that often comes with jitters, anxiety, and a sharp decline afterwards. Strategic splits involve dividing your total caffeine into smaller portions taken over time. This produces smaller overlapping waves of stimulation that add up to a smoother energy curve. By avoiding extreme highs and lows, you may feel more stable throughout your workout and the hours that follow. Caffeine exerts its effects by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain. Adenosine is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel tired as it builds up. So when caffeine occupies those receptors, feelings of fatigue are reduced. At the same time, caffeine increases the release of dopamine and other neurotransmitters that heighten alertness and motivation. These mechanisms explain why caffeine provides a quick boost and how the timing of that boost depends on how much you consume and when you consume it. Once caffeine has blocked adenosine and stimulated neurotransmitter release, it enhances mood and vigilance. Your perception of effort decreases, making tasks feel easier. This central nervous system stimulation is why caffeine is valued for both physical and mental performance. However, the intensity and duration of these effects depend on the dose and your sensitivity, which are important factors in the microdosing discussion. Caffeine has been shown to improve reaction times, allowing athletes to respond more quickly during training and competition. It enhances endurance by helping you sustain effort and prolonging the time before fatigue sets in. It also boosts power output by increasing the neural drive to muscles. These benefits make caffeine a popular ergogenic aid across a range of sports. The challenge is to harness these benefits without triggering unwanted side effects. Most research on caffeine performance uses doses of around 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight. Some studies show benefits starting at about 2 milligrams per kilogram, making that a reasonable minimum for many athletes. Higher doses beyond the moderate range tend to produce more side effects without extra benefits. Choosing the right dose is crucial, enough to enhance performance but not so much that you feel jittery or crash afterwards. This slide summarizes how different doses affect both performance and side effects. A dose below 3 milligrams per kilogram mainly improves alertness and mood, with minimal risk of adverse effects. A moderate dose between 3 and 6 milligrams per kilogram is where peak performance occurs, though some side effects such as mild jitters or stomach discomfort may appear. Doses above 9 milligrams per kilogram rarely provide additional benefits and instead raise the likelihood of nervousness, gastrointestinal upset, and other problems. Understanding these ranges helps you decide how much caffeine to consume and whether splitting doses might make the experience more comfortable. As caffeine intake increases, so does the potential for unpleasant side effects. Common issues include gastrointestinal upset, ranging from mild nausea to cramping and diarrhea. High doses also trigger nervousness and anxiety, leaving you feeling on edge rather than focused. Excessive stimulation can lead to mental confusion and interfere with sleep. These drawbacks highlight why more is not always better, and why splitting doses may help you stay within a comfortable range. Microdosing involves dividing your total caffeine intake into smaller portions spread throughout the workout window. Instead of one large hit, you might take a moderate dose before training and then a smaller top-up during exercise. The goal is to maintain a smoother stimulation curve that supports performance without producing abrupt spikes and drops. Think of microdosing as tailoring caffeine to the timeline of your training session. Visualizing the difference in energy curves helps illustrate why microdosing can feel smoother. When you take one large dose, your caffeine level rises sharply and then drops, creating a roller coaster effect. Smaller, spread out doses create overlapping peaks that combine to keep your energy more stable. This can translate to sustained alertness and focus throughout longer workouts without the dramatic high and low pattern of a single dose. Microdosing does not mean sipping coffee or an energy drink constantly throughout the day. It is a planned approach that divides a reasonable total intake into a few targeted servings. Constant sipping will still add up to a large total dose and can lead to the same side effects you are trying to avoid. The key is to decide in advance how much caffeine you intend to consume and how you will time those servings to support your training. Crashes occur because a large caffeine spike temporarily masks your body's fatigue signals. While adenosine receptors are blocked, the underlying need for rest and recovery still grows. Once the caffeine is metabolized and stops blocking those receptors, adenosine binds again and you suddenly feel the accumulated fatigue. This rapid transition from stimulated to tired is what most people describe as a crash. Although caffeine dosing plays a big role in how you feel, other factors contribute to crashes. Poor sleep hygiene, underfueling or skipping meals, and dehydration make you more vulnerable to feeling drained once your stimulation wears off. Over-reliance on stimulants can also mask these underlying issues. Addressing sleep, nutrition, and hydration will help mitigate crashes alongside any changes you make to your caffeine routine. Microdosing aims to deliver controlled energy and focus without the intense jitters that accompany a single large dose. Splitting your intake may help you maintain performance and concentration during longer training sessions or competitions by preventing a big spike and subsequent plunge. People who are sensitive to caffeine might also find that microdosing reduces unpleasant sensations and allows them to benefit from a stimulant in a more manageable way. Balancing benefits and side effects is at the heart of any caffeine protocol. Microdosing may improve the smoothness of your energy and reduce feelings of anxiety compared with a single large dose, but it does not eliminate the possibility of side effects. You still need to consider your total intake, personal sensitivity, and the timing of your doses. This slide encourages you to weigh potential advantages against the reality that caffeine's effects vary widely between individuals. Even when split into smaller doses, caffeine still accumulates in your system. Taking multiple servings late in the day can interfere with sleep, especially since caffeine's half-life means it remains in your body for several hours. People metabolize caffeine at different rates due to genetics, tolerance, and other factors, so microdosing will not suit everyone. Evidence supporting the superiority of microdosing is limited, and you should experiment cautiously rather than assume it will solve all dosing problems. There are several myths surrounding microdosing that this slide debunks. First, microdosing does not completely prevent crashes. It may smooth the energy curve, but you can still experience a dip if your total intake is high or other factors are at play. Second, more caffeine does not always enhance performance. Beyond a certain point, you encounter diminishing returns and more side effects. Third, microdosing is not an excuse to sip caffeine continuously. It relies on strategic divided doses and careful tracking of your total intake. A practical microdosing protocol starts with a pre-workout dose of around 1 to 2 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight. This initial serving primes your central nervous system without overwhelming it. During longer sessions, an optional smaller dose partway through can maintain focus and energy. Throughout the day, keep track of how much caffeine you have consumed and avoid additional doses later in the day if you want to protect your sleep. Adjust the exact amounts based on your body weight, sensitivity, and the demands of your training. To make this approach concrete, imagine you weigh 70 kilograms. About 60 minutes before your workout, you might take 2 milligrams per kilogram, which equates to roughly 140 milligrams of caffeine. 30 minutes into the workout, you could add a smaller 1 milligram per kilogram top-up, providing an extra 70 milligrams to maintain focus. After training, avoid more caffeine and instead focus on hydration and refueling. This schedule is just an example. Customize your timings and amounts to suit your sessions and tolerance. Microdosing can be particularly helpful for athletes who engage in long training sessions, such as endurance runners, cyclists, or team sport players who need sustained focus and energy. Individuals who are sensitive to large caffeine doses may find smaller servings more tolerable. People who typically experience a significant crash after high-stim formulas might also benefit from splitting their intake into strategic doses. Ultimately, the approach may appeal to those seeking steadier stimulation rather than big spikes. Microdosing is not appropriate for every individual. People with anxiety disorders may find that any caffeine, even in small amounts, exacerbates their symptoms. Pregnant women, minors, and those with existing sleep problems should avoid experimenting with stimulant protocols without medical guidance. If you already have trouble sleeping or are sensitive to stimulants, prioritizing rest and recovery over caffeine intake is wiser than trying to fine-tune your dosing strategy. The final takeaway is that microdosing can smooth energy levels and reduce jittery sensations, but it does not magically eliminate all side effects or sleep disturbances. The success of this approach depends on your overall caffeine intake and your individual response. Some athletes will thrive on smaller, divided doses, while others may see little difference. Approach microdosing as an experiment, monitor your performance and sleep, and adjust your dosing accordingly. This closing message summarizes the theme of the presentation. Instead of chasing ever larger spikes of stimulation, focus on building a smarter caffeine curve that aligns with your training and recovery needs. By planning and moderating your intake, you can harness caffeine's benefits while avoiding the dramatic highs and lows that make you crash. Remember that good nutrition, hydration, and sleep form the foundation of performance. Caffeine is just one piece of the puzzle.